Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna hand out this. This is the generic one we used to use. Now it's all logoed up. I thought this might be helpful for you so you could duplicate it or use it. People who aren't savvy like me would probably just need to copy the copier, scan it in. We usually put the address down here, but I'm gonna go through this with you. We have a really in-depth one from Marcione's office, that will be on the screen. I don't know how to print spreadsheets. It was coming into like 18 pages, which wasn't helpful. And so I figured we could all do it. How's everyone doing today? Oh, this will be a good class, huh? Okay. Okay, oh, here's the paper. Who has experience with seller net sheets?
I try.
Everyone? A little bit? How's our confidence level, 1 to 10? Confident, 10 is like knocked it out of the park, 1 is I need some serious guidance.
I have one,
Same here.
but I'm very interested in seeing how other people use them and how you use them.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how you use it too. This could be a multi person class here, okay. I think I brought. Now, I can't see Zoom or anything, or like, I don't need to look at the chat. Or-
No.
Okay. A little bit weird. So welcome
You can if you want.
to, if she's gonna run up here every time someone has a comment, that's fine. I just can't
She
see.
does
who's up-
it from her desk.
Right, what I'm saying is if someone has a question.
She'll contact me.
Oh, look at, okay, we got streamlined.
We do.
So welcome to Seller Net Sheet. This is the creation of Kim. Knowing what the needs are of this office, meaning she knows the needs, so she asked for it to happen. And she asked me, and of course I was like, no, but yes, it's right after.
Yeah.
I said, no, yeah.
Sure, no.
It was like, no, I had a little tantrum for 2 seconds saying, I don't wanna give my time. Oh, yeah, I love giving my time. I do.
10 seconds.
So,
Can I read one of those?
yes, I think I put one on your desk. Yeah. Yep, see, try to be inclusive.
Okay.
So if you're looking at your net sheet here. Okay, we have our logo up here. This says Keller Williams, obviously. We put the address of the property right here before we go to the property, so they know it's customized. So it says 123 Main Street in Canandaigua, New York. Obviously this first line or second line price and then agent compensation will be something you as an agent decide on your own. So right now our team standard is team, not Keller Williams, not you, is we talk about 6% and offering 3%. Things are changing August 17th, and that might look like different things we can get into, whether the seller is gonna compensate the broker, meaning us, and we offer compensation, or whether the seller is offering compensation directly to the buyer's agent, not through the brokerage, and that's a separate addendum, maybe we get at Keller Williams, which I'm hoping we do, but that's, I'm gonna stand behind our fierce leaders on what they do. Or whether they're really choosing to pay 0%. And in that hopes my conversational skills and value for a buyer's agent, I could convince them that the value is there. So it's not necessarily about negotiating commission today, but does everything look familiar before we start kind of going in? Do we want to like field questions off the bat so I can tackle them through? Do we have anyone that has like neat handwriting that might? Kim,
I have neat handwriting.
that's, you're up. Mine you can't read, so. I was supposed to be a doctor or an attorney, but you know, I'm here.
You're here.
Okay, let's get some questions first, so I make sure I can hit them all, whether it's related to this, and then if we have enough time at the end, we can kind of do like an open questions for Jen for about life or real estate, you know?
That's what I'm really here for.
I know, well, that's, you know, people are paying to go to the panel, hopefully it's, hopefully there's some about Jen in there, you know?
Okay, what am I writing?
Questions, does anyone have questions here that we wanna tackle off, so we don't miss things? If you came prepared and was like, I really wanna know about this. Or I don't understand this, I'd like better knowledge around this in particular. No one,
Question is again.
no one, how about on this thing?
Maybe you can just cover the Ws, like, when do you present this, where, why,
Love it.
how?
Why do you write tax
Present it more
stamps
than-
instead of transfer tax?
I was like, what does that mean? I knew what it meant, but I'm like, what?
Yeah, the deed stamps, tax stamps, it's, yeah. Just how I've always used it, so we haven't changed the language, might have changed a little bit, but it's still. Any other things we can put up there?
Dude, what was your question?
I was just
Tax
clarifying
stamps.
the terminology of tax stamps versus transfer tax.
Transfer tax. The deed stamps, the whole. Trying to see now, I thought you could just drag this over, but I don't think you can.
Yeah, you can go to the right.
Go to the right. You maybe.
Laura.
Hi
I
Laura,
don't know what's stuff up the road, like, garlic and lemon cheese.
I don't even smell it.
Where's that spray? Yeah.
No spray, no spray.
There you go.
Okay. Um,
I think it is amber, Lisa. I think it is amber.
It is Amber. Not Amber.
where's my paddle?
I have questions.
So any others off the top of your head so far? So we can tackle? All right. So do you have a calculator or a phone with you that has a calculator on it?
Mhm.
Yes, okay. So why don't we do a mock one and we can go through each line and see what that looks like? Sound good?
Yes.
Okay. This is, don't worry about this right now. This is my Clifford Avenue, but. That's, she gave me a real live one on a property that's actual property that's closing. This week, today, tomorrow, seller,
The 8th.
yeah, there we go, tomorrow. Is that today? Not tomorrow. And we have everything. The attorneys also call it David transfer tax, so there you go. Okay, so let's take a value. Who has a value for a price for a house that when they're last sitting with your last seller, what was the price that you talked about?
$550.
Oh, okay, I like that. I'm gonna sell those houses. $550, okay, so when we're sitting with our sellers, we're talking about. This price here, and after we've gone through comparables, we've talked numbers and saying, okay, here's our strategy on where we'd list and where we'd sell. So if this is the price we're hoping to take, this is the price, so $550. And I will say, after I go through this sheet with them, I say, and anything beyond this, depending on who I'm sitting with. How they talk, who they are, this is gravy, or anything is the, icing on the cake. Any language I'm using, depending on who I am, is a bonus. Anything beyond that is extra money. You can call it however you want it. Okay, so we have $550. So agent compensation, if we've already had these conversations and they're willing to compensate us 6%, and then we give the 3%, this is, we're doing 6%. Does anyone have the calculator to calculate that?
33 grand.
33. And then we're sharing, obviously, that they've agreed to our commission, agreed to give part of that over, that is delineated out to 3% goes to this agent and 3% goes to this agent. These conversations may change with August 17th coming up and what that looks like, so don't nail me to the cross on this because we're gonna follow what direction the office gives. All right, and the attorneys, so I remember when attorneys were like, 450, 500, 550, 650, 675. And I feel like they're pretty average 700. Who has other experience with attorney costs?
I use 730,
730.
so I ended up getting a pricing sheet for all attorneys and then the average. The
Okay,
average I felt was between 7 and 750 for a seller,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
in my Monroe County.
In Monroe
That
County.
seems cheap,
Yeah.
like, I feel like it's 800 or more, like with Christy Miller in Seneca Falls, and these are like low income areas, that's shocking.
Really? And that's different depending on what attorney, let's see.
I feel like Bob Vaughn in Rochester too is more money than that, is it not?
Is this
I don't know, I've never used them, huh?
Who are
Am
you
I
guys
using this the right way? Why is it like
I
this?
use, Chris LaChuca, I use
Steve.
Julie,
Steve.
I use.
What's my name?
Trying to scroll.
Yeah, I
down.
need to look at others.
I don't know. I'm just trying to see here what his cost is for attorney, just so you could see. But I can't scroll down. to
Where
these, so-
are you?
That's what I said. Oh, there. No, the other sheet. There. 675. This is for $100,000 property in Rochester that's closing on the 8th. So there you go. I know attorneys that have kind of non-set fees, so if it's this amount of work and this amount of work, it might be $1,000. I remember when this price we used to think was extremely high, and now it's pretty average. So, I talked to Ann, who was one of the paralegals that I almost talk to every other day. Just in conversations, I saw her yesterday, we chatted, and she said 700 is a pretty norm number to give, so I took that from the paralegal. So 700. All right, abstract. Do we know what an abstract is?
History of the title and deed.
Yeah, who's owned the property, right? So what factors play into the abstract is how long has this person owned the property? Short time, long time. Love your mug, Laura. It's my mug. It's the team mug, yeah. Someone chipped it, I know. We got new ones, they're in the office, you can go grab them. And what are some other factors that may come into play with, an abstract that you've come across?
If it's lost,
If it's lost,
Does the seller have it?
did they have it? Absolutely. Redating it, did they have it? So if they have it, it's not gonna probably be as much. All abstract companies are pretty much the same, they're not gonna vary too much. So I used the value of 600. That was the value I used. I talked to Ann again to verify because I'm staying in my lane and that's their expertise, so she shared, yes, this is appropriate value. Who has experience with surveys?
Just waiting for them.
What's the most expensive survey your client has paid for? Mine's $10,000.
It was 4 or 5,000 probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why 10,000?
because serious acreage.
Big property.
Yeah, and if they want,
staking or not.
can they walk it? Is it cliffs? Is it this? So it's kind of get pretty serious. Now it's about a 30-acre property. So when we're walking in, I don't want you to come into the belief like, hey, Mr. Seller, you have a 10-acre property and it's gonna be $600 for you to survey it. And you promise this to them, and when it happens, Jen, hey, here's $4,000. I want you to pay it because you told me this was the survey, right? So I just want us to be mindful about the property that we're going to, how it looks, what it looks like. Is the buyer gonna be asking for it to be staked? I mean, a lot of city properties, we don't find, do you find, I don't find, yeah. Here's the fence, it's already up to the house of the next one, it's like right here, you got 5 feet between each other. So it's pretty clear where the properties are, and I'm sure there has been battles, about property lines before that, but yeah, so the survey is, and I will share this about the survey is, and I say to my sellers, I say, after we sign, depending if we're listing 6 months out from now, or if we're listing a year from now, or, I have our attorney, providing they use the attorney that, one of the ones I recommend. If they don't, I always ask them to have their attorney order everything immediately. Cause those can cause a deal to, not close on time, if it's 6 weeks out or 4 weeks out. Gosh, I've had some of them, right at the end when they didn't use the attorneys I want, and that's it, it's okay, but there's like, oh, we're trying to get it done to close. Has anyone had experiences like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, anyone wanna share a little how that went?
I got chewed out by a family member, it took longer for the title, everything was ready to go for closing, and they were just waiting on the title, and she actually. Didn't understand that it was on her end, I had explained it to her, and she wanted interest because it was past the closing date, which I had explained to her that was kind of like a. Pregnancy date, kind of wishy-washy thing, but yeah, it ended up, title ended up taking like 2 weeks later
Yeah.
to close on.
So it took a while, it caused some turmoil, was a little bit shaky with that. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
So a seller can like call their attorney even before they list it and say, I'm gonna be listing, can you start the abstract?
So I usually do that, but I have really good relationships with the attorneys that I work with. And they trust me, they trust I have a signed contract. Could that seller ever pull out and go, screw you? Yeah, but I talk about the seriousness that if they're looking to close in 60 to 90 days, it's not gonna be a crime. But if we're looking for a 30-day close, if we're looking for, those are the conversations I have. So I would encourage you, who has really good relationships with attorneys so far? Yeah. You have 1, 2 attorneys, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who's on here, but would people mind sharing who their attorneys are that they work with, so it'd be helpful for everyone? Yeah,
Marcioni for sure is one. of them.
Marcioni, yeah,
I also use Tyler Ellis at Morgan Stern DeVosick.
okay. Tyler Ellis, Tyler Ellis, can you hear me? Is that the microphone? Okay. Okay, Marcioni,
I use Chris Latuka.
Chris Latuka,
I've used Albert Cusack a lot.
Albert Cusack in Canandaigua, where's Chris Latuka?
University.
In Rochester, so Rochester, I'm just trying to place so people have, when they're hearing it, they have an idea of where we're placing.
I
Who
use
else?
Rusty Miller out of Seneca Falls.
Okay, and do you do a lot of business over there? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, anyone else?
David Dollinger.
Dallinger is a good one,
Bob Mullen, I've used.
okay, are we compiling a list anywhere?
Brzezinski?
Brzezinski, yep,
I use Tim Farnell.
The other one we can put right here. Main Street,
Whitford-
he bought all the other guy,
Cheney.
He's terrible.
is it Spanierico? No, he bought.
No, you wanna share that, you wanna share that.
We're not recorded, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
In my experience, he was there.
right, so we all have different experiences with different attorneys. I was trying to think of the other one, it might be Spanierico, he bought the law firm out from the other guy on Main Street.
No.
Yeah.
There was a B,
It's.
Peterson,
Federation's battery goes in the city.
but I think they have.
They have
another
a
location.
location. Spanierico sign, yeah.
I think it is them, they bought out Rocco Bay, or
Yes.
was that it? I'm trying to remember, Kathy used to use the other person.
Dave, who
Kathy
did you
was-
mention?
Tyler Ellis at Morgan Stern
Tyler
DeVosick.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm compiling the list.
They're over by Autumn Park.
Thank you, Kim. So it would behoove you to not only have great relationships with some attorneys, but think about where you do business. So when I'm dealing with a client that's, I don't know, in Penn Yan, they're probably not like gonna wanna drive to Marcioni's, right? Like in Rochester or Victor. So I would also think about scouting out or talking to other attorneys in different locations. To see what that looks like, cause my Geneva people probably won't wanna come to Victor or Canada, maybe they'll come to Canada, well, there's another one in Geneva, does anyone know the one in Geneva, I think it begins with a K,
Kowalski?
I think that's it. Yeah,
Yeah, I
think it
feel
is.
like I've heard a lot of good.
are they
things about them.
orange, they have an orange
I
sign,
can't remember, but I've heard.
I remember the colors, this is what their sign looked like, but I don't know their name.
Benuity's another one, but I haven't gotten good feedback
Mm.
from clients on using them, so I don't, but that's a big one in Geneva.
That one I had, it was expedited, it was quick, it was like, everything was done, I was like, okay, great to know. So that's what I think about with your attorneys. are where in the location that they serving your client, does your attorney, obviously, we wanna work with attorneys that have predominantly, I feel, real estate experience, cause some of the ones that I've dealt with in the past that deals have almost blown up as I can't get a hold of the attorney because he's in court. All the time. I'm not gonna mention names, but he's in, one of them's in the area, it's like. But, okay, so location wise for attorney, developing relationships within that and, calling around and seeing about their pricing too. So I know you did, but that might work for Wayne County, Ontario County, Seneca County, Yates County, Livingston County. Cause I think that's mostly where we do our business. Does anyone do business outside those counties?
Usually.
Okay. Survey, we did that. Anyone have questions with survey? Okay,
I just have something to add on surveys.
yes,
From a buyer's perspective, if you want your survey to be flagged, you better put that in your contract. Because if you don't, and you want it flagged after the fact, my son's house the survey was already done. It was already done, because the prior deal fell through, but it was $500 it cost him to have it flagged. at his
state
house.
flag, there's different, yeah, I'm just saying, no, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
people hear different terms, you know, they're all synonymous
Remember
with
the
each other.
orange things to know where your lines are, where your corners are, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless
So I
you got
write it
the
in
metal detector to find the pins, the wrong ones, that are in there.
I put it right, I just put it right in.
Is it more expensive if you do it right at the beginning?
I don't know.
But then it's not a point for contention when you come in and literally your buyers are walking around going, where's the boundary lines? It's like, okay, so here's another piece. If your attorneys are not used to doing work in the country, talk to them about that. Cause that's a standard out, like our buyers in this area that are buying country property, it's pretty much expected to be flagged to be staged, right?
Because I
Yeah.
mean, my kid's house is
Yeah.
in the woods, you cannot tell where there's not a fence, there's not a shed, there's no
Yeah.
turning line. So if you don't ask for it, you're not gonna get it, it must cost, I'm sure it costs more, or they would just do it, but I don't know how much.
Survey, $600. Okay, I'm trying this for a real deal here, seeing how far up. Abstract redated, 864, so that one's a little higher. And, okay, survey, is your buyer asking for it stake flagged beforehand, afterhand? How much land is there? So all those are consideration for pricing.
Jen, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Sellers who maybe just had a survey done 4 years ago, could they say buyer to accept existing survey?
if a buyer will accept it, you know.
With an affidavit of no change.
Yeah.
That's a must.
If
In
the
my-
buyer's willing to accept it. Some are,
Would you put that in the listing?
in private remarks, yeah. If your seller wants that, I, as a buyer's agent, have that conversation when I'm working with buyers, talking to them, putting in other terms. If the buyer's willing to leave everything there, or seller can leave everything there, if the buyer's willing to accept existing survey, if buyer, you know, everything. I haven't had that yet as a seller demanding it, but usually something we, as a buyer, we, waive that, you know, right to a new
So that's
survey.
the seller money.
Mhm.
Correct. And that's a conversation you can have saying, hey, there's some buyers out there that might waive the right to a new survey. And you save $600 or $10,000 depending on what your property looks like. Okay. Transfer tax per day. Stamps, $4 per every 1,000. So if we have a $550,000 property, who's doing the math for that for us? $550 times 4,
22,000.
22,000? No.
2,200.
2,200. Oh, I forgot the company for the point.
Okay. So on my, do we have it on here? On my Clifford Avenue, it was, I don't know, we only had 410. So each one's different. And then I added this line in because I feel like we might be with changing times here for concessions, for concession purposes, but also in the change of buyers putting our commission into a concession. So, who had the last concession in here? Did anyone have a concession in here, whether it was commission or not? I had one that was just commission, but,
This BA, they needed concessions,
okay, how many do they need? How much?
like all of it, I think it was 6%.
Four, right?
Six, I don't know, it was a- it
VA can go over, their VA doesn't have.
was a
all
lot.
of that.
was a lot.
Oh, okay,
It was a lot, it was like
as long as it's a number, not a percent.
$10,000.
10,000, so let's say it's a $10,000 concession, let's write that in here for a mock, doing our mock numbers. And does everyone with concessions, how we explain it, what a concession is to a seller or a buyer? Do
We'd
we,
love to hear it.
Yeah.
I just simple, what I say is,
I think it was a question, so.
like, how do you explain it? What does that look like for you when you're buyer's table or seller's table?
You taught me when I was a new baby agent, that it was a legal way to roll the closing costs into your mortgage.
Yeah, it's a legal way to put this cost into your mortgage. And when I do it, I'm always like hand signals like, if this price is 100,000, we're putting it on, so now we're at like 110, right? Or whatever it is. So we're using this number in real time. So the net from that, so it's 550. So if they're asking for a concession, it's really 540. And when we talk about a concession, here's where I think it's gonna get a little sticky, and I'm gonna maybe refrain a little bit with seeing what the office is gonna do, I don't know, because if someone has a mortgage, the appraised value is contingent upon appraising for the total price with the concession in it. So that's why when we're looking at offers sometimes, as with our sellers, this one's got a 10K concession, this one's got a 5K, this one's got nothing. The risk to the seller is now the value has to, if they have a mortgage, they might not, or it might not be a contingency in there. It has to appraise at that top value, right? Versus, so it's gonna appraise at 550 versus 540. Do we all understand that?
Yes.
Okay. How does anyone maybe share it a little bit different with their buyers or sellers? Who wants to be vulnerable? We're all a family.
I've never had anything with concessions.
No. I lived and breathed concessions when I started real estate. All concessions, every last time, every offer. I was like,
I've never had concessions either.
okay,
I understand the delivery of it, but I've never had anything.
I did it one time on a, like, first time home buyer property, they needed money for closing, so we did 3%.
Okay.
Concessions and offered over, if it was 80,000, we offered 83. Or whatever, yeah.
we have a concession. Once. So the last one I did the other month was my commission concession. It was a for sale by owner, and usually I'm really good at negotiating commission. There's one at Yacht Club Cove right now, Cove Drive, that wasn't offering anything, but they said they offered to me, but then I ended up writing. Cause I always have that conversation up front. You know, I don't wanna have it in the back end. So the last one I actually closed on. Couple streets that way, I'm trying to remember, I think it was off market. I think 240, I might be a little off, and I'm just putting these numbers, and. Let's just say we did a $10,000 concession, it might have been a little less, but so then I talked to them about that 250 number. And they said, now, I believe market value of this house is 275. So in the end, that's why I love dealing for sale by owners, because my buyers are usually saving money and on top of paying commission. So I talked to them about, at the end of the day, whether the seller's paying it or you're paying it, it's still in the purchase price. So if the seller's paying it in the back end, in the net sheet, you're still paying $550 or whatever we're looking at here, and, do you wanna go through that?
Not to interrupt you.
Oh, okay. So we're going, I mean, it's in there, it's coming out, whether the seller's paying for the buyer's paying, it's still in the total price. But the conversation that I didn't wanna necessarily go into, you know, all of that further than this conversation, because we wanna see what the market center's gonna come out with for documentation, if we're gonna have appraisal concerns, how we're gonna do in competition if we have this. But I'm still gonna advocate for the value of the buyer's agent commission, whether it's compensated through our brokerages or compensated in a separate addendum straight to the seller, so we don't have liability around that whole conversation.
You just asked how people explain concessions, and this is how I explain it.
Yes.
So I just say, you take the loan amount, you add in the concession, so let's say your offer is gonna be 83,000. 3,000 of that is concessions, what that means is $80,000 goes to the seller, $3,000 goes back to the buyer for closing costs.
Right.
That's how I explain it, you had asked.
Yeah,
It was the
no, I
vulnerable
love it,
family part,
because
and I gave
I
credit.
love it, because
So I was vulnerable.
the more ways we hear it, one might jive with us or not, right? This might jive, this might jive, so we wanna make sure that it feels natural, you feel confident in explaining it, and at the end of the day.
We're still family.
We're still. All right, let me keep going. All right. Yes, no, I love it, Kim, I love it. Okay, who has done the math so far? Anyone? Bueller. So we have 550,000 minus 33, minus 7, minus 600, minus 600, minus 2,200, minus 10,000.
$5,029. That what you got?
I didn't get anything, so I'm gonna depend on you.
5,029.
5029. It being 900 or 9,000.
900,
Okay,
You use 700 for the attorney?
I believe so, yeah, is that what you use?
whatever's on the sheet.
I use 675, so I got 502, 775.
Oh, okay, so mine's probably, I just used what was. on
Yeah,
the
what was,
paper.
so 502 900.
Sheet.
Okay, so now we have a number, and everyone understand how we did that? We took the top number, we minus all these other numbers on our calculator, and we got another number. And so we have 5029, this is net to the seller. Now I have a little stars asterisk in here, 2 of them. And it says less any mortgages, liens, lines of credit, capital gains tax. And then I usually have prepared by, and then whoever does it, me, Lisa, you know, whatever it is. So I always say to the seller, do you know your payoff of your mortgage if you have a mortgage? Some of them know we don't have a mortgage. Great, okay, well, here's your true operating, number. If they have a mortgage and they get the payout, what might the payout be here? So I take that step further if they already know and go through it with them, so they don't have any surprises. So let's say they have a payout of 375,000 for their mortgage. So we take 375,000. Yeah.
What did you say? What was it?
375,000 minus 502, 5029 minus 375,000.
127,900.
Okay. So, Mr. or Miss Seller, you're gonna have 127,000, give or take. To put towards your next house, to go towards your next house, to put cash in your pocket. And I always say, there's always other little pieces and parts that I leave as a happy surprise at closing, like. If you have taxes coming back and you paid your taxes in full already, and you close on this month, you get some back, so I just let them know. There's a few pieces and parts coming down the line, positive, some other little fees might be in here unseen. But I say roundabout, so if they're not looking for a check for 127,000 on the dot, and if I'm wrong, they're gonna be upset. Is there any other conversations you're having with people around this net number?
Final water bill is in Christina's calculations. Water, sewer, all of them.
Either water escrow, water in the city, no mortgage payoff, wire fees, courier fees. So that gives them a roundabout idea, and then usually at that point, they're like have a big smile on their face, or they are like they're furrowed up here and touching their face stressed, and they say, let's talk. How's that number work for you? So. Questions about this so far, anything? Yes,
I just want to raise my hand.
what do we match?
When do you give this seller net sheet?
At the appointment.
Do you give scenarios or just one?
After we've gone through comparables and talked through strategy, so I'm clear that they're clear on which strategy we're gonna use to move forward. Versus like, they're gonna be listing at 550,000. Or are we gonna be listing at maybe 510 or 509. You know what I mean? So once we're clear on strategy. And then we're saying, okay, based on these numbers, that's the strategy we're gonna employ to get it on the market. You know, have it cast the widest net, have all the buyers out there, show it, based on them. If they say, oh no, we want like 1 day of showing is gonna look different. So if I talk to them, we're clear in the strategy, we're clear where we're gonna try to aim. That's when I go through it with them. If we don't have clarity on this, I can't really do this, because I don't know the number.
So I do a net sheet, a seller net sheet, but I give scenarios, so the list price will be the same. But based on the sale price, I give 3 different scenarios, just to kind of, see why I might myself a little bit.
I try to use the lowest one.
Yes,
Because
yes,
then anything beyond that,
Yes.
they're already celebrating you, right?
Yes,
Like, you
yes.
got more, yeah.
exactly, so I like to give them 3 options just to see what that looks like, and of course they want the most expensive, but,
But yeah, of course, and we can attain that, let's go back to our marketing plan and strategy. Are we on the same page with this? Yes, okay, great. Okay, let's see if we've hit some of these. When do we talk about this? So talking about it in the appointment. If you have to go back for a second appointment or finish it up on a Zoom to talk about comparables, because the property might have some seriously different features that you're not used to, there might be a BAB appointment to talk about comparables. So I wouldn't employ this at that time. Where am I gonna talk about it or what?
Are you doing it in person?
Yeah, I try to always do everything in person. You're there in front of them, you have their attention. I don't love doing things on Zoom. I mean, I will if I have to, but it's a different experience for people. If it's an out-of-state family or out of state and they have the property here, you're most likely on Zoom or on the phone. So. Why do we use this? Who can answer that?
Know the number, be transparent.
To be transparent. What else?
So they know what they have to purchase the property potentially.
Yes. Anything else?
So they know if they can sell.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else?
Make sure everyone has realistic expectations.
Expectations. Because clarity is power, so when we have those expectations and have clarity and everything, then they can make decisions to move forward. So if we don't have that, we can't. Probably there could be a few other answers to that, but. How do we use it? It's pretty simple. Does everyone agree on how we use it? Is that what we mean, how we physically use it?
So you're putting this piece of paper in front of them and going through it with them? Cause I have one where you can put in a lot of different figures. And then they can mess around with figures and see. It's kind of more like, where do you want to list if you need to make a certain amount? Do you ever do that with them?
No, because I want to be in control.
Okay.
I want to dictate the conversation, but if we're talking about listing at a certain price, and then they're gonna say, well, I really want to list at this price, we're not going back to this sheet, we're going back to conversations on strategy. And here's the best strategy that I think if we employ will net you the most. And I share my experience. This seller on XYZ street, and talk about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Words are hard, Kimberly. Well, transfer tax, deed stamps, I think it's been called different things over time, so I think I meshed them together called tax stamps. I've always used it. Let me see, where's that thing? So here is a real live version of Clifford Avenue. The other agent isn't in this office, so. I wouldn't want to share everyone else's information. So they have up here, here's the premise, property just like ours. We don't have a closing date, but this is their closing statement, not necessarily so this is done in the back end, we're doing this in the front end. So I really want to give you a live in detail, so you could see what this looked like. So buyer credits, we have the deposit. And does everyone get these closing statements for their clients?
And the
From-
attorney,
Depends on the attorney, yeah, I feel like they never talk to you and you're like. But you should be getting them eyes on them and seeing them, closing statements, everything. Okay, abstract, survey, commissions, gains affidavit, so gains. Transfer tax, attorney fee, title, and then this is documentation, carrier, wire fees, anything. Within that, mortgage payoff, none, and then whatever city, town you're in, how am I doing with time? Great, water. And so then their total sale proceeds is $94,000. And this seller, we did this sheet. So what would you like to sell this place for? Wildest dreams, and she was like 65,000. So when I brought her offers and we talked about it and numbers looked that they could sell for 60 something. So when I brought her an offer for about $100,000, she started to cry, you know, because it was her mom's house, so. It was a referral. To a client that he's referred me many people in the inner city, so. Okay, so she gave me this, she gave me a scenario for rentals too. When your seller's selling a rental, and like, that's a whole nother class that we're not there. I don't know if it's in here now. Okay. Anything else in this that we haven't covered for seller net? I will try to see if I can pull up one of my old. I think it probably looks the same, but no other questions. Are we opening to ask Jen anything? You weren't here, Laura, so let's ask Jen anything about herself.
What's your favorite food?
Anything home cooked, yeah.
Not pretty big mistakes, they don't, I know, yeah, so I
How do I
get to
get
like.
to this?
then-
Oh, it's over here, so I'm trying to get to it over here.
Yeah, maybe.
Ah.
Tuesday.
Was this helpful to everyone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Expecting.
Well, a lot of it is basic, but it's like, what other conversations aren't we having with our sellers that we can have to make us stand out? Because there are some agents probably not going through a net sheet. I mean, I'm assuming, right? Do you know how much you're gonna walk away with? Wouldn't that be helpful for us to have a plan in place? Oh, yeah. Oh, the last guy didn't tell. Oh, okay, great. Let's talk about it. So. Yeah, clarity is power. I have some blank ones. If people wanted a couple blank ones, you're welcome. I didn't know if you'd ever use them. Mortgage payouts. I think I talked about everything we needed to. So what's the homework some of you were gonna do? To further our business?
Yeah, seriously.
Get some
That's the
listings.
first step.
Number one, get more listings.
Yeah.
Focus of everything, units. Have different relationships with attorneys, start forming those relationships. Making sure different areas that they service your areas. Having ones in, different counties, I mean, we just closed in Springwater. And Marcia only serviced it, so. They did great, and it was state.
Go to that county then, or did the buyers have to go to
To close.
one road?
Yep, they were living in Greece anyway. They were trying to take me out to lunch yesterday. I couldn't go. I was like, oh.
Tom Mullen will send an attorney, like he'll send somebody wherever they are, he'll just partner with an office or something and be like, hey, can I close at your office, and he'll do that.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter where they are, they can be right here at this office.
And and also at closing, well, like now I'm talking about like representing a buyer, but some of the lenders try to have everything funded before it's like walking out the door. Do you know that, or is that your experience with some lenders and other ones that's like closes later that day? No,
Right.
yeah, no.
Say that again?
When was the last time someone went to a closing?
I thought it was just that one.
We all go, okay, that's why I was like, wait, how do people not know about getting funded? Yeah, well, not everyone does mortgages, so. If you use prime lending, they're one of the ones that will absolutely have it funded before you leave. Like the attorney's like, wait a few more minutes, eat some of the chocolates Jen brought. And we just wait.
Like maybe say have it funded, you mean.
All right, guys, have a great
The
day.
money,
Thanks,
See ya.
the money has been transferred from the mortgage company to.
It's all closed out in the mortgage,
So-
period, it's done.
Oh,
Yep, so it's fine.
and that doesn't always happen?
Not always at the table, no.
A lot of times it's like 3 to 7 days.
Different times, different, but prime lending does it right there and it's done.
The last one I was at was Prime Ed.
Yeah, so if you have any, usually it's done within that time frame. But my client showed up 45 minutes early. All right, anyone have any other questions?
You know, 8 months ago.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, same.
You're good, Peter.
oh, thanks. All right, still have 15 minutes.
Get some more work done.